Hello, fellow Ghanaians. I'm just kidding. Hello, everybody. You're welcome to the Voice of Reformation. This is brought to you by the New African Concept, and it has been an amazing journey. The various episodes and series that we've been having on the School of Values, and I hope that you have been following and you have been learning. It is my prayer and my desire that whatever that we are sharing with you, whatever that you are getting from these videos will not just come across as informational, but it's something that will ride on the tenets of transformation. That is the objective of what we are doing here. And I believe that you are setting yourself up to be transformed as an individual, and by extension cause transformation and impact in the nation of Ghana as a whole and Africa at large. So once again, this has been the Voice of Reformation. We are on the discussion and understanding of the School of Values. And in today's video, we are looking at the value of the spirit, the value of spirituality, and as it were, righteousness. The value of spirituality and righteousness. So all this while we have been talking about the importance of values. That values are the very things that form the bedrock or the foundations upon which nations are built. So nations are built not because of the power of its resources, not because of the might of its government board, of its constitution, or anything of the sort. Nations are built because of its value systems. And the same value systems are the very things, if absent, can break down a nation. So that is how important these things are. And what value we are talking about in this video, the value of spirituality, is so relevant and so important that we need to pay attention to this very value, because it influences our personal lives and national development in such a tangible way. Now, one thing I'd like us to understand is that throughout the history of man and the evolution of nations, you would realize that religion has played such a key role in the course of events. This only goes to show us and help us understand the tangibility of the place of spirituality in all of man's affairs, especially in national development and progress. And so it is worth talking about and considering. Now, we'll need to understand that on the level of nations, you see, the place of the spiritual world is tangible and real. Granted, there are many people that do not believe in the spiritual world, do not believe in the place of the spirit or in a God, or things like that. But let's bring the scope down to Africa in this very moment. Now, Africa is the most religious continent in the world. And from our history and our culture and our very setting, we realize that Africa is already privy to the tangibility and the affairs of the place of the spirit. So we realize that there has been a lot of spiritual engagement on the African front, where we understand the works of the spirits, the good spirits and the bad spirits, and the roles they play in our daily lives. And so growing up, we heard of many superstitions. Some examples being, if you bathed and you whistled, that your mom was going to die. If you walked and I heard one that there was a time you walked in a town, you put your hand around a lady, at the time, the gods of the land would come and punish you. So, these were certain beliefs that were put in place because of our inclination to the spiritual realm. And if you have not been privy to some of these superstitions, then you are an Indomie baby, my friend. But it's all good. It's all good. So these are things to let us understand that the spiritual world is ever real and tangible. And the fact that you may not believe in it does not mean it is not there. So even while we are here, there are people that work with me that are making sure that what we are bringing to you is possible and able. But you do not see them. It does not mean they are not present. So the place of the spirit is very, very real and very, very tangible. And as real as that dimension is, in the same vein and value is its impact. So the place of the spirit and the affairs of spirituality is as real as its impact. And so even on the level of nations, nations have the soulish mojo, as it were. And even as they have a soul, they also have a spiritual destiny. So nations do not just thrive on their physical and material possessions and resources. They also have a spiritual destiny and atmosphere that determines the course of events. And so what we need to understand is that the place of the spirit has impact and a relation to the things of the physical and the affairs of man. And if it has such kind of impact, and the kind of impact I'm talking about is not just any form of impact that is menial or can be ignored. Significant impact. The place of the spirit has significant impact on the course and the steering in the affairs of nations. There are records of men like John Knox, of whom the Queen would say that, "I fear nothing but the prayers of John Knox." These are men whose inclination to the place of the spirit had impact on national affairs. We've seen the history of the church in national development and affairs of men and all of that. These examples are just to let us understand that these things carry weight and must be paid attention to. Let's take it down even from the national aspect. When we come to man as an individual, now you realize that the greatest resource of every nation or continent or even whatever system it may be is not the material resources that are in place, but the human resource. And if we agree on this and understand this, then I want to make sure that we are exploring every aspect of this resource. Now, when we take man as an individual, we realize that there are three aspects of man that make up his holistic composition. And I mean, you know these three. We are talking about the body, the soul, and what? And the spirit. So the body, the soul, and the spirit. When we talk about the body, we are talking about the place of the physical. So the place of career, we are talking about relationships, skills, and then all of these things. Then when we move to our soul, we are talking about the place of the intellect, where we accrue skills, where we learn things, memorize emotions, decision making, and things like that. So that's the place of our will and intellect. And then when these things beyond the body and the mind, we go into the place of the spirit. So over here, that is where the other aspect of man, and even more the more substantial aspect of him resides. And we are saying that this part of man has the capacity to influence his body and his mind. The mind and the body are subject to the operations of the spirit. And so when the spirit of the man is neglected and not paid attention to, whatever state it is in, that is going to be reflected in the body and the mind. And on a natural level, man is in a corruptive state. So when a nation does not pay attention to the affairs of its greatest resource, which are its citizens, in all of their making, then they begin to deal with their natural tendency, which is the corruptive state, which ultimately defies the advancement of the nation on all levels. So these are aspects that we must begin to pay attention to. So what we are talking about in this video is valuing the place of spirituality. Now, what happens when we don't do this? Now, you see, the Bible says in Proverbs chapter 14, verse 34, that righteousness will exalt a nation, but sin is a reproach to people. So a nation is either righteous or it is sinful. You cannot have it in between. So we must learn to cultivate the righteous aspects, the good aspects of our spirituality that will reflect on the nation as a whole. And so what does focusing on spirituality or value spirituality does for us? Spirituality informs and defines our moral capacities and capabilities. So focusing on the spirit will define our morality. Focusing on the spirit will help a nation to train the right kind of people. Focusing on our spirituality will cause us to affect our future destiny. So these are things that we must begin to pay attention to. And going forward, considering that these are things that we must value, then we want to pay attention and consider that now the place of a man's spirit is a place where we must focus on. Now, in focusing on that place, I spoke of the body and the mind. There are systems and institutions that will take place that are responsible for making sure these aspects of man is developed. But when it comes to the place of the spirit, there are various religious systems and bodies that must pay attention to these things. And so this is a charge that if this is a place that is of value to our development as a nation, then we must begin to pay attention to these things. Because if our spirit is responsible and affecting our attitudinal disposition and our manifestation as people, then we want to pay attention to that place. And in the moment or at this time, can we really say that we have a people who are righteous and strong in their activities? And the definite answer is no. We do not have a righteous nation because we do not have a righteous people. And this is what must provoke our religious systems and institutions to take a second look at the kind of people we are producing from our various outlets and platforms. And so I would charge you, dear viewer, as you listen to me, to pay attention to the place of your spirit and its development and progression. So don't let anyone dilute your understanding and appreciation of the reality of the place of spirituality. It is real and it has an impact on your life. So you must be conscious of it and commit to working on it. So in doing so, you want to make sure that you are, subjecting yourself and feeding your spirit man so that it can have that impact on your body and your mind. I am a Christian, and if you ask me, I'll recommend that you come to the place of Christ, for he has the power to cause changes and bring us to the place of discipleship. So dear viewer, as you listen to me, this has been the voice of reformation. If you need any help in developing and appreciating the value of spirituality, contact us and we will be of help. This has been the voice of reformation. We have been talking about the school of values. Like this video, share it, and I'll see you next time. For Ghana will be better. We can do it. Bless you.